This is Amy Chambers, and you're listening to the Matt Balaker Podcast.
Good day, fine people out there. And listening to this program makes you a fine person. But if you want to get extra credit, if you want to go to the top of the class, please encourage your friends to like, subscribe, and share. It'll help our metrics and make me feel very warm and fuzzy inside. And I am very warm and fuzzy for today's guest because we have a reunion of sorts. And I didn't even plan this. It just kind of worked out. But this woman is impressive. She's run in over 200 marathons. She's an avid skier, a financial services leader, a Golden Domer, as well as a graduate of the USC Marshall School of Business, and author of a recent book on leadership. Please join me in welcoming Amy Chambers to the program. How you doing, Amy?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Matt. Great to be here.
You know, it's great to have you. And obviously you've had a 20 plus year career in financial services. You're a leadership expert. You're an author. You have amazing hair, which is probably the most important criteria of any guest we try to book on our show. But I want to leave that on the side for just a moment, Amy. Please talk to us about your love of skiing and how this all started.
Yeah, so I developed a personal mission statement a few years ago, and on it, I had decided I wanted to be a person that does hard things, challenges myself, is comfortable with being uncomfortable, that was just really important to me. And what I realized as I was reviewing that periodically was that I was failing and cheating myself. I have always been afraid of skiing. I just had this perception, if you ski, you'll break your leg. That's just the thought I had. Very ridiculous. If everyone that skied broke their leg, no one would ski. But my boyfriend and numerous friends really loved to ski and would go together and spend time. And I just always found excuses to get out of these trips. And what I realized is if I wanted to be congruent with my personal mission statement, I needed to go skiing because getting over fear, being uncomfortable, challenging myself is part of that mission statement. And so I went and tried it. I just wanted to say, okay, I've done it, and completely fell in love with it. It's a really awesome sport, and it really gets us comfortable, I think, with the spirit of, hey, it's okay to fall. It's okay to make mistakes. So
yeah,
now,
I mean, both literally and metaphorically. So I want to pause just a little bit, because you had this mission statement and part of it was like, yeah, I want to go skiing. Where was your first adventure on the slopes?
Solitude in Utah.
Okay. Well, this is a very first world discussion, because it's funny. A few years ago, my wife and I had, it was I'll call it a fight. Like, in terms on a similar subject, I didn't have a mission statement. Like I like to be comfortable between like 67 degrees and 73 is perfect for me. Below or higher than that, I start whining. But she had we have ski week in Orange County, and we have two sons, and it was her idea. She was from LA, I'm from San Diego, to go skiing with our friends in Utah. And you might look at me as like this physical specimen. I'm very awkward. I'm quite uncoordinated. I suck at balance. I mean, I take yoga. I practice yoga to improve it. But the idea of being on skis is like the worst. I can't think of a less congruent, to use your words, match for me. And so I was trying to relay my case to my lovely wife. And if you're listening to Ashley, obviously I love you to death. And I was like, it's super expensive. I don't have good balance. Like my left Achilles tendon is shorter than my other. I can't think of something I'm less apt to do. It's I don't miss it because I don't do it. And I say all this because tonight we're leaving on a plane to go skiing, and that's been 4 years. And I can finally go down green runs on my own. But you said you don't felt like I didn't get hurt. Later I broke my shoulder on a bike, but on skiing, like I sucked so much the first few times, and I just didn't want to see my kids. I didn't want to quit in front of my kids. So it was so I bring that up because I kind of share some of your feelings after the fact, but I was terrible. And if I work really hard, I'll be a below average skier, but I love it.
I think the cool thing is that you get to show your kids what this process or this journey looks like of, hey, dad's not great at something, dad's trying, dad's all right with continuing to learn and grow. And so whether or not you look like an idiot doing it, your kids are probably getting something very healthy and positive out of watching you, besides just the amusement value of
right. I think that they like spraying me with snow and avoiding me because they go on like blues and blacks, and that's scary for me. But so but back to the ski. I mean, it's just an example, but I mean, it's something that was super goofy, or and you took to it very well. But how did that kind of influence other ideas for you, where you're going to get used to being uncomfortable?
Yeah, actually, just this whole recent venture I've been on, leaving corporate America and saying, okay, I've got a job that pays me well, that I really like. I'm in a C-level role, which was something I always aspired to do, but I'm just going to kind of toss that aside because I have this bigger goal of coaching people, of speaking publicly, of writing books. Skiing, marathon running, things like that have helped me realize it's all right to just try something. And if it doesn't work out, you can always go back to what you were doing before, or you'll maybe parlay it into something new. But my recent decision to write a book and to go into business for myself, it was exactly like skiing. Hey, it's all right to start over.
Right. And Amy and I, we both went to USC Marshall, and we realized we overlapped a couple years, but she was super important, and I was kind of the back of the class, just skirting by. So we kind of, different approaches. But one thing that was interesting is entrepreneurship studies. And it seemed kind of like a bad fit. You pay this money to have professors who are some of the most risk-averse people on the planet. Not that they're not good professors, but it's sort of like, why go to school to learn entrepreneurship? Now that you've kind of been on both sides of the coin, Amy, I want to get your thoughts on that. Should we go to school for it? Should we do it? Is there a combo? What say you, Amy Chambers?
Yeah. I never took a single entrepreneurship class at Marshall. I didn't know at the time I was going to go into this. So I can't speak to the level of education in the classes. What I do think was really neat about Marshall, and probably all education, is that you just spend a lot of time talking to people. I remember taking conflict resolution classes, communication classes, HR classes, and it wasn't as important what grade we got on a paper or on a test, but just the spirit of arguing with people and debating and discussing and being exposed to other thoughts, I found very worthwhile. And so the classes I did take at USC, I do think have prepared me quite well to do this kind of work. But yeah, I can't speak for entrepreneurship classes specifically. It seems like both of us, for whatever reason, have ended up in that part of the world. So potentially just being around it actually influenced us to become entrepreneurs ourselves.
No, that's a good point. I mean, hearing stories, those are my favorite classes, like the lecture halls where guest speakers came in and shared their experiences. But it's not as if you just became an entrepreneur overnight, Amy. Let's rewind a little bit. What were your first kind of quote unquote real jobs, whether it's after undergraduate or after business school? Yeah,
actually it was funny. I was babysitting when I was in high school for someone that ultimately became a COO of a very large bank. And he had actually asked me my senior year of high school, hey, can you watch the kids every single day? Because my wife's going to go back to school herself and we need childcare. And I said to him, I need a real job. I want to have a job on my resume. And he said, well, why don't you just go get started at the bank and we can hire you as a teller. I can make that happen. And at the time he was some kind of regional director or district manager. And there was kind of a process, and I don't even think he was aware of what that was, but says, we'll work you in. And I missed all this teller training. And so his thought was like, well, we'll just, train you at the branch, like one-on-one, which was a disaster. I didn't know how to balance my drawer and use any of the systems. And I was actually kind of dead weight for probably that whole summer. The following year, after first year of college, I went back and went through a formalized training program, got all the experience I needed. And I did that job for years. I was a teller all through college. After college, I went through a management development program where we then had to spend time as a teller and then a personal banker. And so I've done every role that there is really in the branch at banks, and loved that kind of work. I've also worked in fast food. I got fired once from Burger King for giving free food away. It's the food that we're going to toss because it's been sitting out too long. It's like a 10-minute under the heat lamp thing, and then it becomes unedible. And so I had a buddy that would walk by and see if we had anything that was about to be tossed. And if so, I would bag it up and give it to him. And one time the manager caught sight of me doing that on camera and pulled me back and said, "Have you given away free food to somebody?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And he said, "Oh my gosh, like how often do you do this?" And I said, "Kind of all the time. Anytime my friend comes by." And he was very surprised that I was.
Was your friend homeless? I think people want.
Yeah, no, he was just a struggling sophomore in college, like most of us, trying to find ways of eating. But
and this is food that would have gone in the trash.
That's right. Anyway, yes. So there's probably some sort of safety.
Yeah, there's probably some liability issue, but that's
yes.
So you mentioned you start off as a teller. Listeners want to know, Amy, what sort of training did they give you in the event that you're being held by gunpoint?
Yeah, so that actually is something at every bank, every credit union, you're trained very well on. So that part of the training I didn't miss. Yeah, that's
yeah. So what are some of the tips? Like whether you want to be a bank robber or you're working there and you want to get out as safely as possible.
This is not a plug for bank robbers, but the tip internally is give them the money. Okay. It's FDIC insured. We're not gonna spend time worrying about people's safety. You hand over the cash, and so don't try to be a hero. No negotiating with these people. No bartering. But ultimately you do what you say, whether it's a note or an armed situation. So we'll get it back is the thought for most banks have.
That makes sense. So it sounds like the approach is to make it end as quickly as possible.
Yes, that's right. The second piece of advice is don't chase these people. Like it's not up to you to follow them out of the branch and like chase them down the street, whether or not you're a track star or what, a pro wrestler. Like we just don't do that. Let the police and the authorities handle that. So
were you ever part of a robbery or any of your colleagues?
Yeah, a lot of my colleagues have. I have actually never witnessed a live robbery, but I have had several of my branches go through that experience. Yeah, the stories, range. I will tell you that when I was at B of A, I was a district manager for parts of East and South LA, a little more of a rough and tumble neighborhood and community than, let's say, Santa Monica or Laguna Beach or, other parts of very nice California. And so this happened, I won't say regularly, but it happened, numerous times while I was there. And so, I got to have a lot of conversations over what that looks like. In general, just because I have to say this, having spent so long in banks, you often do get caught, so don't do it.
That was my next question. I mean, you're entering a facility with cameras everywhere and security, and they're usually at pretty densely populated areas. It doesn't seem like a wonderful area to make it out unscathed. But
that's right.
I think a lot of bank robbers don't think 4, 5, 6 steps ahead, Amy. That's right. My guess.
Absolutely, yeah. Of course, in my current role, I have to tell people this. There is probably something else that you could be passionate about that you'd be really, really good at. And so hopefully people put bank robberies as at the bottom of their lists.
Yeah, or at least in the middle. We don't want it 1A or 1B, please.
That's right. Yeah, fair.
So you work at a bank. Then, you dabble in fast food, you get a little hasty with some of the merchandise and you give away stuff maybe you shouldn't have. Then what, Amy?
Yeah, so I had the plan to go to law school and I'm working at the bank and a couple of years out after college. And I, working as a PB or a PFA at the time, the person that opens accounts and takes your loan application in a branch. And I had this experience where a couple, really the woman of the couple, comes in one day crying because what she wants me to understand is that I have saved her marriage. And she's got flowers and a gift card for me.
Wait, so these were happy tears, I'm guessing.
Happy tears.
Okay.
Yeah.
Please continue.
I presume so. I mean, sometimes
You
I guess
saved my marriage, damn
keeping
it.
your marriage together. Oh yeah, bummer, But what had happened is this couple was drowning in debt, and we had taken out a home equity on their loan. They had actually already tried to, facilitate that process, couldn't get it approved for various reasons. I was really enjoying spending time with the underwriters at this bank, kind of figuring out so how can we negotiate in terms of paying down other debt as part of this, and can we consolidate things, and look what this is going to do to their payment. They promised they're going to pay off all these cards. I had gotten the deal to go through, and we had saved them on their monthly payment something like $500 a month by just consolidating all this credit card debt and various other obligations into this very low rate. And because of that, they had actually for a few months been able to save up and take themselves on a cruise. I was working in Baltimore at the time. They took a cruise right out of Baltimore. And on that cruise, they had decided to put back together their marriage. They realized that, hey, we still have fun together. We love each other. We've just been drowning in financial stress and debt. And now things are getting so much more free and clear. Like, we can do this. And she came back in and unbeknownst to me said, when we were talking with you, this was like the last straw of trying to change our situation. But this had caused such crushing stress to us. We were basically going to split and part ways. And you've saved our marriage. And it was at that moment I realized, oh my gosh, wow, I have this huge power to help people financially. But I kind of felt like I have this responsibility to do it. Like, I need to ask open-ended questions and get to know my clients and make these recommendations that could change their lives. And so I got really into it. And then at some point, I got really good at it. And then I wanted to teach it to other people. Hey, here's how we do this. This is how we have these conversations. So law school, all of a sudden, we flew out of my mind, and I ended up staying for another 15, 16 years after that point where I realized that in financial services, I got excited about it, basically.
I mean, I've worked in financial services too, and there are times when I share your passion, but a lot of it's more mundane. So I think no matter what you do, if you can find passion and joy in it, you're going to be a lot better at it. You had this very tangible story about kind of being this marriage hero. But how did you sustain it? Because not every client, not every customer is going to be like that. I mean, how did you maintain the love?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because you're right. Not every story was full of success and happy tears. I've seen the other kind of tears too, to just downright, screaming, yelling, and we've got to call the police to have someone removed. So banking was filled with a lot of roller coaster moments. I did just kind of start to say to myself at some point, if I can just make someone's day better, or if I can just make their life better in some small way, or whatever the situations that's going on, if I can just find some way to improve it, then my work here will be done. And so some days that, looked like, hey, the person's here screaming and yelling over fraud that they've had or a mistake that was made on their account. If I can just get them to stop yelling and get them calm and seated, hey, that was a win for me today. And so it kind of just became this game of mine that I would play with myself, like, however I find things, can I just make it better by the time I'm done interacting with someone? And it became really good practice, but it was also kind of a mental challenge of like, again, whatever is going on around me, can I just improve it? And I've taken that to other parts of my life as well, my health and my fitness, my relationships, my own finances. And it's funny, if you kind of take that approach with everything in life, your life gets really great. So yeah, it became fun for me, really.
You said a lot of important stuff, but I know many people tune in to this because they want to better their lives through financial help. I'm guessing, but might not be a correct guess, but I'm gonna guess it nonetheless. But share with us, and by us I mean me. What are some practical tips that folks out there can adopt to help improve their own financial situation?
Number one, without a doubt, is if you work for a company that offers a 401k and has a match, max that out. It's mind-blowing to me how many people are turning away free money. If it's a match, what is that at least on that initial deposit, you're getting 100% return. And I don't know, what your listeners buy in terms of the stock market or a mutual fund. 100% is guaranteed is pretty good. So
yes, it is.
Yeah, right. So I would say if you got a 401k, start there. I think number two is begin with an end in mind. Sometimes people take stuff day to day. I'm just going to try to save a little more money this month, or I'm just going to try to do, X by the end of the year. If you can kind of work backwards by saying, okay, where do I really want to be in 5 years? Is it own this home? Is it own a better home? Is it own a second home? Okay, well, then what's it going to take for that to happen? Okay, here's the number. Then what do I need to be doing every day? Whether it's, do I need to get promoted at work to just make more money, or do I need to cut out the Starbucks and the pack of cigarettes, each week and start small? But if you kind of say, I've got a goal and an end in mind that I'm attached to, it becomes easier to make tough decisions, say no to things sometimes. But so often if I say, what's your financial plan? People can't give me an answer. They're like, well, I just want to do better. And they don't really know what that looks like. And so I know that a lot of people will say all the standard stuff. Oh, get a budget together, look at, things on QuickBooks, do it every month. I don't know. I think just sometimes starting with an end in mind is almost more important.
I like that. I mean, you hear the comment, pay yourself first, diversify, invest in index funds. But I think those are tactics. I think you're more goal focused. It's like, look at where you want to be and then work backwards. And I think then when people see, all right, there's light at the end of the tunnel, these temporary inconveniences are a lot easier to stomach. If it's whatever it is, what's a house, or a lot of people I know just want more freedom, meaning that like they want to have more money in the bank so they can tell their boss F you if they don't want to work there anymore. And I'm not saying you're suggesting people tell their bosses F you, but you led a lot of people, and leadership is a passion of yours. How do you define leadership, Amy?
The top thing, and this comes out in the book over and over again, is that you have this vested interest and this care for other people. I've been signing a lot of books lately, and probably the top message is I sign a book, because of course I have to say something. I can't just sign. Is it really, it's not about you. It's about the people you lead. It's not about being in charge. It's about caring for the people that are in your charge. Really, leadership is all about growing and developing others to do things that they never thought possible. And if that's really your goal and your objective and your calling when you come into work every day is, am I engaging people? Am I keeping people happy? Do people want to be here? Are they learning? Are they growing? Can they tell me the truth if they screw up? Am I doing the things I need to do as a leader so that happens? Then that's great leadership. Too many leaders, I think, are all focused on themselves. What results am I getting? And how do I look on a scoreboard?
What suit should I wear when I'm on the cover of Forbes or whatever?
That's right. So it's really like a very selfless job. You have to say, I am here for others. I am here to help them unleash talent and greatness, of them to be fulfilling their full potential. This is no longer about me. The day that you become a leader, you're really turning over the keys to others, and you're there for them. I think too many people just don't know that.
So you're there for others. It sounds like, I'm paraphrasing Amy, but good leaders inspire, and in, I guess, more B school terms, kind of maximizing return on human capital would be a good measurement of a leader. So, you're working in financial services, and then you bolt. Why?
I realized that, and this kind of goes back to the personal mission statement. My goal really is to live with no regrets and not get to a point in my life where I wonder, what if I could have done it? Did I hold myself back? I realized that my passion is all about coaching people, influencing people. A lot of these topics that we're talking about are things I talk about with clients daily, but I also talk about a lot of personal strategies. Just earlier today, I was sharing with someone, hey, everything you make in life it's a choice. You're choosing all day long. And so if you're feeling angry or feeling sad, that's a choice you're making. You don't have to feel those things. And this person, it was very interesting. I don't think they'll mind if I am telling you this, but they sort of said, I've never known that before. And it kind of seems like an obvious thing, but they were saying, I bet people that believe that versus people that don't have completely different lives. And it was an exciting moment for me, because my answer was yes, that's exactly right. So let's go out and try it this week. But I realized that talking with people about these kinds of things, self-leadership, leadership of others, fulfilling your passions, making great choices, creating a life for yourself that you want, was really, really important to me, more so than leading people to do well in financial services. I felt like I had accomplished everything I wanted to there.
You close one chapter and you open another. So you
pun intended.
Yeah. Living a life with no regrets. What else? Like, I mean, you have to delve into all of your own personal mission, but what are you looking to achieve? Like if you were coaching yourself, what would you say?
One of the biggest things that I've had to work on over the course of the last several years, and again, this is something that some people get in childhood. For me, it's been more work, is really valuing differences, not expecting that people are going to see it as I do and share my paradigms and my judgment, leaving space for others. I date someone now, it's been 6.5 years, that is very different than me, and actively every day finding ways to value what makes us different and to celebrate him, to seek to understand. Again, some people grow up in a house where that's taught and normalized. With me, and I love my parents very much, but we kind of have this belief of this is the right way to do it. It's our way. And so that's been something very personally important to me, to really become a person that is able to understand and celebrate others because of, again, the things that make us different. So that's there. You hit kind of some of the big stuff before, challenging myself to do new things. As part of that has come a whole concept about mistakes are okay, failures are okay. It's good to be vulnerable and humble. It's like an important daily exercise to figure out what I need to unlearn and relearn. And so seeking out new information, reading, that's become a very important part of my mission in life as well.
Seeking out new information, reading, respecting differences, and not just respecting, but celebrating, all important stuff. And but it's one thing to think these. You put pen to paper, and I'm using that metaphorically because you have a new book. What's the story there, Amy?
Yeah, so the book is The 7 Virtues of Exceptional Leaders. Virtues is an acronym. The V.I.R.T.U.E.S all stand for something, vision, involve, routines. I could go on, but this is a 7 process or practice framework or model for leaders. I won't say steps, because the truth is they're not really done in a order, and they're not just done once. These are behaviors and practices that people should live every day. But I spent really 20 years observing leaders, the last 15 or so in leadership. And it's just become very personally important to me to figure out kind of the algorithm for what makes great leaders. And I think I've done that and have put that in this book. Spreading the message and the word about this book now is really important to me, because, to be very honest with you, and I wish it were different, but I look around and I see a lot of poor leadership. I see it in corporate America. I see it in politics. I see it in really our whole world, and helping leaders understand that there's a better way, and command and control and do it because I said so doesn't work, but really getting to know people and giving them ownership in the results, and also some of the how is the way to go. And so, yeah, the book's exciting, but it's really important now for me to share the message of the book with people and help people be better leaders.
Yeah, thank you for sharing the message. And you mentioned, whether it's corporate world or politics, there's lots of pitfalls when it comes to good leadership. What are some of those pitfalls, and what are corrective actions we could make?
I think that one thing I see is that leaders feel like they have to have all the answers. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. Leaders are there to start a dialogue, and they're there to ask the questions so that other people can find their own answers. And so this concept of like, I've got to be right, that needs to go out the window. Probably number 2 is this concept of like, I've got to be perfect. I think a lot of leaders feel like if I make a mistake, I need to cover it up. I'll get judged for that. I won't be forgiven for that. And that just really doesn't bode well, because people in leadership have this power to say, I've made a mistake, I've had a failing, I'm going to tell you about it openly so that you can learn from it. And oh, by the way, I'm going to give you the permission to do that as well yourself, because of course mistakes happen a lot, but we're going to create this safe, secure environment where we view those things as positive because they're learning, they're teachable, they're coachable moments for us. So those probably are at the top of my list. Not listening to others, feeling like it's black and white, it's binary, it's right or wrong. That really gets leaders into trouble. And we've probably seen that over the last 6 or 7 years. We really have a very divided, U.S. It's just something most of us, if we can agree on one thing, it's that. And so inviting people more into a conversation or a dialogue of, I see it differently than you, but that doesn't mean that I disrespect you. I want to actually learn more about that because you might say something that influences my mindset instead of, oops, you see something different than me. I need to educate you and help you. And if I can't do that, I'm going to toss you aside. And so, I think the listening, the vulnerability, the humility, the involving others in the answers and the solutions instead of feeling like you have to have it all. That's really, I think, what takes leaders down a really bad path.
Yeah, no, I think, there's been an important change in the last several years where it's an understanding there's not one way to do something. That's probably been this way throughout history, but it's easy, whatever your persuasion is, whatever your kind of biases are, you can point to examples of success. There are leaders that are very direct and they have great companies. There are leaders that are more into delegating. But how does one discover his own or her own style of leadership?
Yeah, that's a great question. And you're right, there isn't really just one way. I do think that there's a lot of things leaders can do to figure that out. Number one, anytime we're trying to develop any strength or skill, I do believe there's value in saying, I'm going to find someone that has done it and done it well and done it the way that looks right to me. And I'm going to spend time with them, whether it's, shadowing them or just spending time with them over lunch, but I'm going to ask them how they did that. Sometimes we have examples and role models right in front of us, and we won't reach out for help or use them as a resource, or we'll assume, hey, they were born with it or they got lucky. Really saying, okay, I'm going to find the kind of leaders I respect and like, and then I'm going to go and get with them. I have several mentors and executive coaches that coach me. It's sort of a team of 3 different people. And really what I observed in all of them was something I liked about their life. Wow, you have a 35-year marriage. Wow, you've got 6 or 8 kids. You have these great relationships with those kids. Wow, you've built successful companies and everybody just loves working for you. Teach me, coach me, how do you spend time with you? So I think it's really finding the people that we look up to and taking the time to learn from them. So that's probably at the top of my list. Probably the second thing is that people take time out of their day and out of their week to just sit down, reflect, journal, strategize. So many people say, I don't have time to do that kind of stuff because I got to get all this stuff done. But when we don't take time out of our business to work on ourselves and to just, again, journal and say, what do I really want to accomplish? What's important to me? What do I like to do best? When I'm at my best or I feel my happiness, what kind of things are going on? Why is that? We kind of get lost in the shuffle. And so I recommend that people spend an hour to 2 every single week over and over again thinking about how they want to live and if they are, I know we used the word congruent before, but aligned, congruent with that. So that's probably what I'd give as early advice to someone trying to figure out kind of how they want to show up and how they want to be.
I like that. So it's constantly asking yourself, is what do I want to do? And is this helping? That's a struggle. Like, how do you answer the question for people who are like, I want to find out what I want to do, but I don't know it right now? What advice do you have for them, Amy?
Yeah, that's another tough one. I think that the place to start is with the kind of personal mission statement and saying, if I were at my own funeral, or if I were, if I were hit by a bus in a week, what would I want people to say about me? Let me just start there. Would it be that I was compassionate and had a lot of empathy and always made time for them? Would it be that I was a world-renowned, whatever, skier, runner, leader? What would I expect them to say? And then am I just at a basic level living in accordance to those things every day? I do think people, this is kind of a secondary thing, not being afraid to just bag something and start over. Sometimes we get a few years into something and we feel like, well, I got these sunk costs. I've been at this job for a while. I've gotten promoted from, accountant to senior accountant. Like maybe I should just stick it out. If it doesn't make you feel good or bring you joy or happiness, I would say that's a sign of needing to look for something new and just say, I'm just going to go experiment. I'm going to try. Not be so afraid of wasting time. I think, again, sometimes we just get stuck and we say, I can't change because I've come this far. I would encourage people to just kind of bail on something that just doesn't feel right more often. So they're trying out different things, not focus on what their parents did or what they went to school for, but again, just focus on what brings them joy. And again, if they're not finding it, then saying, okay, I'm just on to something else then. And it's not a big black mark on my resume if it didn't work out or if I take 6 months off, that's not going to matter. So I think along with this comes this concept of not worrying what other people think, but really finding it in here. I think so often we allow friends, family, social media to persuade us. In general, we can detect really what it is that we're supposed to be doing because it probably plays on our natural talents and strengths, and those already exist regardless of whether other people see it or not. So that's probably why that journaling and strategy and private time is so important. So those are a few things that I would say.
It sounds like, quiet down, put your focus on something, and then write it. You brought up a lot of important points, but one I want to unpack a little bit is not caring what others think. I agree 100%. I think that's very hard to follow in practice. How can we get over that concern or that worry about what others think of us?
I'm starting to sound like a broken record because this is now like the third time I brought it up. I will say having some sort of mission statement, vision statement, guide, vision board for our life helps with that because at the end of the day, you use it to grade yourself. And so I have decided like on mine, transparency and authenticity, really, really important. To be a person of integrity and just do what I feel is the right thing is important. I've read you some of the other things, I'll be uncomfortable, mistakes are okay. And so at the end of the day, sometimes people give feedback of like, oh, you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have said that. I've been in meetings before where people said, why did you push back on the boss like that? Like, great. Now it kind of looks like we're incompetent or we don't know what we're doing. And I've always thought, well, yeah, I'm sorry you feel that way, but like I've got a mission statement that says that's what I'm going to do. And so when you have something like that you use to grade yourself, it does become easier to say, I'm going to get feedback of, hey, you didn't like that I did that, but I've really got this document that I've spent time with that tells me who I want to be and what I want to be known for and how I live. And so it's okay to just say, maybe this isn't the right friend for me then, or the right person for me. I do think that we have to get to a point where we say, we're all going to die. We all have mortality. Like we're not going to be here forever. And at the end of our lives, it's just going to be us, really. Some of the friends we have or the bosses or people we interact with, they're not going to be there anymore. People kind of start to drift away at some point. So really, we just have to get comfortable in saying, I'm proud of what I'm building and I don't need permission. And, this game of life kind of goes quick. And so what's more important, keeping people happy or living in a way that felt right to me? And so you just sort of have to kind of put on your big boy and girl pants and say, it's all right to be judged. I live with
You've motivated me. I'm going to put on my big boy and girl pants and honor what you're saying, Amy. You mentioned pride. Are there one or two things you're most proud of when it comes to your life or career?
Probably at the top of the list is the running. I went from a point I wasn't even able to run a mile without walking. I just said, I hate running. I can't do it. I've just never been a runner. And I trained myself to run over 200 half marathons, 11 fulls. I've run 12,000 miles over the course of the last 8 years. So I took this thing that I hated, couldn't do, and became a runner. And I've got all these medals and bibs around me in this room. I think that's probably the biggest thing because it resulted in a physical change, but also a big mindset shift. But it was something that didn't come naturally to me, and I worked at it and I put forth effort and practiced it. It's really become the same thing with skiing. I've proven to myself, hey, you know what? You can change things about yourself. You can do anything you want. The book is a huge thing I'm proud of as well. I talked about it for like 10 years. I've been writing it for the last 2.5. To finally have it out and be published and people are consuming it feels really great. I think leaving this corporate job, walking away from being a COO, that took some courage. It was really tough. I loved my boss. He was fantastic. And I was getting development and growth at work, but I really wanted to take this chance and see if there's something else that I might like doing better. So I'm proud of that because sometimes these decisions are tough. And it's not how I was brought up to leave jobs, to be a skier, to be a runner, to write a book on my own. I was sort of more taught to kind of stay in my lane. And if you got a good thing going with secure, stable income, you keep it. So
don't rock the boat. Enjoy your security. Well, congratulations. And what's something, whether it's an attitude or an approach that you have now that you didn't say 15, 20 years ago?
I've realized that in life, you can't control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond to it. And so that's been a big deal. I think I used to, in the past, spend more time focused on the circumstances or the events instead of focusing on, hey, I get to respond to this and how do I want to do this? And this shows up in a lot of ways. Sometimes we'll blame traffic or the weather or other people's behavior for our unhappiness in life. Like, oh, if only this didn't happen to me, then I would be okay. But that's just not how life works. We don't get to choose those things. So again, focusing on, okay, how do I want to deal with this? That's become an everyday practice of mine now. And it has led to a lot of happiness and a greater sense of control and power that I have. So that's the number one thing.
No, I think that's very liberating when you think, okay, a lot of stuff's going to happen, but I can control to some extent my reaction to it.
Yeah.
it takes a lot of the power away, whether it's someone doing something wrong, saying something you don't like, a situation, a circumstance, there's some hope. So thank you for giving us all this hope, Amy. Well, we'll have to have you back because I have millions more questions, but I want to know, what are you most optimistic about?
Gosh, on the list is probably everything we've talked about, that people are every day figuring this stuff out. There is more information, the internet and social media and our iPhones or smartphones that are in our hands at almost every minute. A lot of people can kind of say, well, that's all sort of bad. But really, we have access to information on anything and everything now. And I see a lot of people using the information for good. People are becoming self-employed entrepreneurs, starting their own businesses, taking chances, I think at higher rates than ever before. COVID helped us with some of that. And
thank you, COVID. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, COVID, for that. I'm optimistic about the people that are choosing to make a plan and a path for themselves and follow their hearts and to take this information and use it for good. That's probably the number one thing. And I've been one of them. So yeah, it's nice to be optimistic about that.
People out there use Amy's information for good. And also, where can these people who are interested in becoming better leaders, maybe more financially secure, happier, where can they get the book? Where can they learn more about you, Amy?
Yeah, both the book and more information are on my website, amymchambers.com. The book's also available in all formats on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And then I, have a video. It's a Transformation Tuesday series that's on YouTube and LinkedIn every week. And I'm under Coach Amy Chambers on YouTube and then Amy Chambers under LinkedIn.
Excellent. Well, we'll link to those in the description of this show. But great. Amy, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
It was wonderful being here. Thanks a lot, Matt, for all that you do.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Matt Balaker Podcast. To learn more, please check out mattbalaker.com and encourage your friends to like, subscribe, and share. Really appreciate it.